Welcome back, everyone. And we would, of course, like to give a special shout out to our sponsor, PLDT Home Fiber Internet, for providing us with this very reliable internet connection. With their high powered internet, we can easily proceed with these online activities without the fear of ever having a disconnection. Thank you once again to our friends at PLDT. And now it's time to go back to our lecture for today. Let us get to meet our second speaker. Our second topic will expound the place of Cebu in national history. Now, this is quite a touchy topic, especially for Cebuanos, because many would claim that our sense of Philippine history has long been Luzon-centric, Or, in other words, it has emphasized a lot on the events of Manila. Today, we try to widen our view of Philippine history by seeing the place of our very own Cebu in this journey called Philippine history. Our speaker obtained his Bachelor of Arts in History from the University of the Philippines. He then proceeded to finish his master's degree in history from the same university. Currently, he is finishing his Doctor of Philosophy, major in anthropology from the University of the Philippines, and he has published numerous researches, has appeared in many historical documentaries, and he is a very much a well-awarded, multi-awarded academic. Currently, he is serving as an assistant professorial lecturer at the De La Salle University. Ladies and gentlemen, known as a public historian, let us put our virtual hands together once again for Professor Michael Charleston Xiao Chua. Welcome once again, Sir Xiao.
Makasaysayang araw po, maayong buntag sugbo, Chingay. Thank you so much to our first speaker, Ma'am Feliz Noel Rodriguez. Thank you for obliging sa aking pakiusap na mauna. And I really wanted you to take time because my slides were not yet finished when we started. There are just so many things. But my view of my lecture is clear and I am now able to put illustrations to what I want to say. So our topic for today is Kaagi. What is Kaagi for the non-Cebuanos? We are going to talk about that today. So Kaagi, Vignettes of Cebu in the Road to National History. Again, thank you to the Cebu City Cultural and Historical Affairs Commission. It's called CHAC. And then, of course, their leaders are called Xiao. I'm Xiao Chua and you are Xiao. Thank you so much for your trust and for putting me alongside Dr. Feliz Noel Rodriguez. I am not worthy. One of the reasons why I am a historian today and also a lover of Rizal was her documentary, the documentary that she wrote, Jose Rizal, Ang Buhay ng Isang Bayani, which was produced by Bookmark and the Ateneo de Manila History Department. Please watch that. It's in YouTube. Use that in your classes because in 1 hour, just sit in 1 hour and you will know much about Dr. Jose Rizal. And I was inspired to also do documentaries in the future. So thank you, Ma'am Feliz. I owe you that. And I am so happy to be with you here. Please follow my social media accounts and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content on history. And of course, we have my website, xiaochua.net and bangkanisxiao.wordpress.com to help teachers about their readings and other stuff in history. I would like to dedicate this lecture to someone who died recently on August 4. His name is Paul Clarence Oaminal. He was a lawyer, a historical columnist in the Freeman, and I never knew him actually, but because it's only recently that I am able to dabble in Cebu history. But apparently, our good friend here, Orland Jimmix Romarate, got me his book, and recently he signed it, and I was told by Orland that when he heard my name, he actually knew me. I received the book and I was supposed to message him. I told Orland I wanted to thank him, and Orland told me a few days ago, Prof, he died, and that was just sad. And this is volume 1 of his Cebupedia Streets edition. You will learn a lot of history from it. I hope volume 2 will be compiled by the heirs. so that we can all learn from it. In our discipline, in the Philippines, history, we call history kasaysayan. And of course, kasaysayan came from the word saysay, which Seo Salazar emphasizes that it came from the word saysay, which means narrative, nagsasaysay, and meaning, saysay, meaning. So collectively, when you look at it, kasaysayan is narratives or stories that are important for a group of people. Makasalaysay na may saysay para sa sinasalaysayang grupo ng tao. So the important thing about history is saysay. What is it for me? Ano ito para sa akin? Anong kahulugan nito para sa akin? But in Cebuano, the word for history is Kaagi. And I learned this from a non-Cebuano, Ambeto Campo, who made it an article in his Looking Back column. Ambeto Campo said, Kaagi in Cebuano, the term for history, is the path that we have passed. Ang aming dinaanan. And this is, wow, I mean, a lot of places in the Philippines, ang word sa history is a story. Saysay, salaysay. But in Cebu, it's called the path, which is so good kasi when we use the analogy of a path or a daan, we all go to that path. Dinadaanan natin yon together. And I am invited here, and tinaasan ko nga ng what you call this, ng akilay si Orland. Why are you inviting me? I'm not an expert on Cebu history. But I took the challenge and said, I want to show people in this lecture, so the other title would be how an AP or history teacher can make examples of Cebu to teach national history. Now, tama si Chingay kanina when she said, actually, local historians in other places could be protective. Na parang, oh, we're not national history, we're apart from you. But also, they lament that we are not included in the national narrative. Well, tama kayo. Kasi for the longest time, it's always the revolution in Manila, the government in Manila. But how can we use Cebu examples to teach national history so that hindi tayo napapako sa away ni Bonifacio Aguinaldo, things like that. It is very important to see that we all pass this path. As a nation, we can see patterns even before we became a nation. And we are going to see more of that as the years go by, especially when we banded together. We are in the same boat. We are diverse, but we're also unified in many ways by that path that we passed. So that's why I called my lecture Kaagi. So this is dedicated also to all the teachers in the Philippines. This is History Month. This month is History Month. We're celebrating #Victory and Humanity. And you know that Victory and Humanity was the theme of the Kwinsentenaryo commemorations in the Philippines. Commemorating the events 500 years ago, the victory at Mactan and other related events. And I just want to say that Cebu should be proud because Cebu province is the ground zero of the Kwinsentenaryo. It's the ground zero of the 500 years. That's why it is very important. And we will go back to that. Now, of course, we pay tribute to a foreigner for making this possible because without him, there would be no Kwinsentenaryo. I'm sure. Because he was able to make a detailed account of what happened. Of course, this is Antonio Pigafetta, Primo Viaggio Intorno al Mondo, which is translated into Filipino recently by KWF, and you can download this for free. Antonio Pigafetta. Antonio Pigafetta, the Italian nobleman, nakasama ni Magellan. Now, of course, he talked about the first circumnavigation of the world, an achievement of science and mankind. And Cebu had a part in it because like in a recently published book, Pigafetta's Philippine Picnic by Feliz Prudente Santa Maria, that's the other Feliz. Feliz Prudente Santa Maria. no, na makikita nyo that he had great descriptions of food. No, I talked about it in my what you call this, in my talk during the launching, during the Kwinsentenaryo. I'm just so happy that you invited me also there. No, that Cebu was part of the story of the achievement of mankind, and that Pigafetta was able to write about it, especially the culture and the words. It's the first Cebuano dictionary, written dictionary in a way, this account of Pigafetta, and the descriptions of the life, the descriptions of the surroundings, yung mga kinakain nila, no, at mga kasuotan, at marami pang iba. So you can check that out in the Pigafetta. What I want to emphasize here is that if you're going to look at the story of Antonio Pigafetta, it emphasizes the role of Cebu, Sugbo at that time as tabuan is market. And it also means yan yung entrepo. It's Francais yun, entrepo, no? O entrepot, no? Entrepo is bagsakan ng produkto nung panahon ng Southeast Asian trade before the coming of the Spaniards. So Sugbo is a big part of the economy of Southeast Asia. Kaya nga nanghihingi si Humabon ng taxes. Since wala silang taxes na maibigay itong sina Magellan kasi wala na nga silang pira, waray pira na, anong ginawa ng mga ni Magellan? Sabi na, gawin ko na lang kayong Christian para maging part kayo ng pinakamalakas na empire sa mundo. No? So, alam nyo, sabi nila nagpauto daw si Humabon. Dili naman totoo na nagpauto si Humabon. Hindi, matalino, crafty itong si Humabon kasi siningil niya rin, sabi kasi ni Magellan, pagtanggol ka namin sa makalaban mo. Kasi kami ang pinakamalakas eh. O di siningil niya pagdating ng panahon. Alam niyo na yung nangyari doon. Pero what I want to emphasize is the description of the sandugo in Pigafetta. Pigafetta might not get it, but we all know what that means. It means that Humabon wanted to make Magellan his brother. Magtuturingan silang magkakapatid. And that is symbolic of how we treated the Spaniards when they came here. And in Cebuano, in Bisaya and Cebuano, Vic Villan told me that sandugo means pag-aanghod. The word pag-aanghod, pag-aanghod. And manghod means little brother or little sister. Now, this is important to note because when you say pag-aanghod, that's even, kasi di ba sandugo means kapatiran, magkapatid kayo. But pag-aanghod is much more special. So Cebuanos define blood compact better because pag-aanghod means, you treat your kasandugo like a little brother. So you will also be treated like a little brother. So there's extra care that happens because you treat yourselves as little brother. And this is the basis. When the dato and the dato nag-aanghod sila, that means that they become magkakapatid and the bayan is created. So the basis of the creation of the bayan is kapatiran. And Andres Bonifacio will also go back to that. Kapatiran. Now, just to emphasize this, the bayan is created, but they also have, they also establish a community near the bayan that is higher para kapag may sakuna, pumunta doon yung mga tao at maligtas. At kapag may nanggera, nangubat, no, nangubat, mangungubat, nangubat. And in Cebu province, there is a town called Bolhoon, and in Bolhoon you have a high place there that used to be Ilihan, and they call it Ili o Ili. So it's very important to see the connection because this is also prevalent in most Southeast Asian countries, including in Batanes also in the Philippines and other places. You call the places are called Ilihan. So that means that if you look at the Austronesian roots, including Sugbo, we are connected. We have a basis for nationhood. We have a maritime culture. Kaya may tauban because we have a maritime culture. So yan po yung Ilihan ng Bolhoon. And of course, we go back to the Magellan expedition in Cebu. We celebrated the 500 years of the arrival of Christianity in the Philippines through the first baptism. Kasi nagaway-away yung mga tao sa Limasawa at Butuan doon sa first mass, edi sabi nila, wag na lang first mass, first baptism na lang. No? So, first baptism. So, Sugbo wins. Sugbo wins kasi walang away. Walang away sa Sugbo. Walang away din sa date. April 27, 1521, first baptism. Tsaka it makes sense, you know, bakit genre? It makes sense because in baptism, there are converts. In the first mass, wala namang binaptize noon. So, arrival of Christianity really happened in Sugbo. I'm sorry, baka demanda ako, no? May nagdemandahan kasi dyan eh. Maawa naman kayo sa akin, wala na nga akong pera, ididemanda nyo pa ako. Maawa kayo sa akin. I beg you, for academic freedom, huwag kayong magdemanda. Masama yan. Anyway, eto, no? So this is the logo. Just payabang lang ako na, magyabang lang ako na nandun ako nung April 27, not April 27, I'm sorry, April 14. April 14, 1521. So the April 14 celebration here. I was there. Ang dami gustong pumunta pero hindi nakapunta dahil sa pandemic. Naswertehan ko. Thank you National Kwinsentenaryo Committee. Thank you to the Augustinian brothers, sina Father Rick Anthony. Salamat po. No? So there was a papal mass, there was a reenactment of the first baptism. No? I think may kinalaman ng Xiao dito sa mga events na ito. So congratulations for that. So ayan, the first baptism happened when Reyna Juana actually asked for the Santo Niño. Hiningi niya. He was, di ba sabi ninyo, yung Santo Niño is magnet of love. Ano nga ba? Bantubalani sa gugma. Yun ang sinasabi niyo. So na-magnetize, una pa lang na-magnetize na si Reyna Juana. Hiningi niya yung Santo Niño kay Magellan. So makita nyo yan, napakagandang So bakit kaya niya hiningi yun? They might not fully understand Christian doctrine, kasi yung katekismo hindi naman nila buo na naibigay sa mga Cebuanon, Pero siguro nakita, at sabi ng mga anthropologists, nakita ng mga Cebuanon ang kanilang dating paniniwala sa animism o sa pagdakila sa mga spirito, sa mga ninuno, yung anito sa Santo Niño. But it's also a prestige item according to Vicente Villan. Anything foreign, no? Kaya mahilig tayo sa foreign goods, not just because of, anong tawag dito? Not just because of colonial mentality. Kasi kapag mayroon kang foreign item, mandirigma ka na nakakuha niyan sa ibang bansa. So kaya siya prestige item. So iningatan siya ng mga Cebuanon. Pero dito mo rin makita the example of folk Catholicism. We accepted Catholicism. It's not true that we were wiped out. Our culture was wiped out. We lost some of our culture, yes. But because our culture is also, dynamic, humalo lang yung culture na bago sa atin. Humalo lang yung bagong culture sa dati nating paniniwala. So that's why the practices of the old are still practiced in the sinulog of the Santo Niño de Cebu. The cultural and historical significance of the Santo Niño cannot be denied. That's why the National Kwinsentenaryo Committee hired me and Dr. Lars Ubaldo along with other people, including the NQC Secretariat, to write an exhibit, Paghangup, which is pagtanggap, Paghangup, the Filipino and the Santo Niño. So it is now in the Santo Niño Basilica Minor in Cebu. So we opened that exhibit with the Papal Nuncio, Charles Brown, and Archbishop Charles Brown. And we also, at that time, this is April 14, 2021, the declaration that the Basilica Minore del Santo Niño and the Magellan's Cross, what was believed to be the Magellan's Cross or the kiosk of the Magellan's Cross, are called National Cultural Treasures by the National Museum. So, I hope you're not yet bored with my lecture, Mactan. So this is Mactan. We go now to the next part of the story. I did this before in another lecture with Xiao. So this is just I will just reiterate the importance of Mactan. First, the victory at Mactan, the Battle of Mactan. No? Well-armed ang Spaniards, but they were only 49. The Mactanons were what? 1,500. So naubos sila dyan. But it also emphasizes that the Visayans, including Cebuanos and the people in Mactan, Uponganons, are warrior culture. So we have a maritime culture, we have a warrior culture of the Pintados, which was already what do you call this? Discussed by Ma'am Feliz Noel Rodriguez. But you see that the tattoos, the designs are divine. They have the sun, they have the snake, they are human snakes. These are holy, these are divine spirits in the old culture. Kaya makita mo, this is an anting-anting pero sinuot ng mga tao sa kanilang katawan. So nangyari yung victory at Mactan, yung galing natin sa sandata, how is that exemplified through the years? Yung way ng pag-handle ng kampilan ng mga ninuno natin, eventually, we transform that into something else. Kasi, di ba, binawal na tayo na maghawak ng mga bolo-bolo na yan for combat. Siyempre, gusto natin mag-practice. So, anong ginawa nila? Naggamit sila ng stick. Pamalit. So, pakita mo, sa Cebu, nag-start yung tinatawag natin, o yung Cebu, although maraming eskrima sa Pilipinas, maraming kinds of eskrima, the major movements of eskrima in the Philippines came from Cebu. No, ito yung mga important figures diyan, actually si Pilimon Cañete, yung kapatid yata ni Kakoy yun si Pilimon Cañete. I'm not sure, no. Si Kakoy Cañete, yan yung 12 Pares group na tinatawag natin. Sila yung naunang club na panahon ng Americans yan, ng mga escrimadors, no, 12 Pares. So dalawa yung kanilang hawak na stick, no, which is the traditional way. So yan yung 12 Pares. Now, sina Ansyong Bacon, Ansyong Bacon, at yung iba pa, no? Sina Timoteo Maranga, ito yung dating police chief ng Cebu. Very interested ako sa kwento na ito kasi may napanood ako na pelikula na Escrimadors. Gumawa naman sila ng bago, no? Kasi nakatira sila doon sa Balintawak Street, doon yata sila nagpa-practice. Balintawak Street sa Subo. Gumawa sila ng Balintawak Self-Defense Club. So nagkaroon ng 12 Pares School, which is the traditional, at yung Balintawak, one stick na lang. Biruin mo, one stick na lang ang kanilang ginagamit. So yung mga movements dyan, yan din yung ginagamit sa kampilan noong unang panahon. So makita mo yan. Pati yung, alam nyo, yung mga escrimadors, meron sila mga anting-anting, tulad ng mga ninuno natin. At gumaban sila sa digmaang pandaigdig. Matindi to. Ako, ang dream ko sa buhay, ma-meet ko kayo mga kamag-anak nitong sina Ansyong Bacon tsaka sina yan ang dream ko talaga. At saka sila Cañete. No? Ma-meet ko yan. Matatanda na sila Baka nga yung iba lumipas na. So, balik tayo kay Lapu-Lapu. So, sila yung nagdadala ng spirit ni Lapu-Lapu. And by the way, ang Balintawak at saka yung 12 Pares styles, dinala yan sa US ng mga kaibigan ni Bruce Lee. No? At ang nangyari diyan, naging worldwide na yan. Kaya pupunta yung mga tao sa Sugbo, mga Amerikano, mga Europeans, nagpapatrain sa mga grandmaster. 'Di ba? Ganun katindi ang Sugbo. Hindi masyadong pinag-uusapan yan sa Maynila. No? Sige, puntahan natin ulit si Lapu-Lapu. So si Lapu-Lapu, hindi daw siya bayani kasi Sugbo lang naman, Mactan lang ng Sugbo ang kanyang pinaglaban. Sabi nila, tapos personal lang daw kasi imimit naman daw niya si Magellan. Kaya sabi ko naman, no, Magellan is interfering with the life of the people. Kaya sabi ko, tumindig si Magellan against that kasi ginagawa nga niyang King of Kings si Humabon. Sabi ni Lapu-Lapu, ayaw niya nun. So in a way, bayani pa rin si Lapu-Lapu ng kalayaan at nung pagtatanggol sa way of life natin. Pero ito sabihin ko sa inyo, we celebrated the Kwinsentenaryo recently and I was also there, April 27. Ito ang April 27 sa Mactan. Ayan, nandun po ako at nag-celebrate kami. No? Tayo pala, nag-celebrate tayo kahit pandemic. O, hindi natin mapalampas yan. Di tayo makatiis mapalampas yan dahil napaka-important. Ano? Ayan. So, bakit natin sineselebrate yan? Local hero lang naman sa Sugbo si Lapu-Lapu. Alam nyo, malaking kalokohan po yun. Malaking kalokohan. Bakit po? Bakit bakit national hero si Lapu-Lapu? Bakit siya nasa pera kahit doon sa barya noon? Simple lang. Kasi sa panahon ng kolonyalismo, na inapi tayo pagkatapos dumating ni Legazpi, no? Anong nangyari? No? Pinanlaban natin yan ng mga national heroes natin. Pinanlaban si Lapu-Lapu kasi natalo niyang Espanya. No? Pinanlaban, kaya si Mariano Ponce named himself Kalipulaco, which is a name of Lapu-Lapu. Jose Rizal wrote about him in the Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas by Antonio Morga. Emilio Jacinto, ginising niya ang mga Tagalog sa pagsasabing, no? Nasaan na napatungo ang dugo ni Kalipulaco, ang masiglang hari ng Mactanyang pinatay niya ang lilong si Magallanes. Oh? So, ano pa? Look, the Declaration of Philippine Independence referred to Rey Kalipulaco de Mactan. So, Emilio Aguinaldo recognized our heroes. Our heroes, recognized Lapu-Lapu. So that's why if the national heroes recognize Lapu-Lapu, why can't we not recognize Lapu-Lapu? Diba? So, okay, ayos tayo dyan ha. Let's continue. So Cebu City, kasi baka sabihin nyo, wala nang role lang Cebu City. Actually, meron pang role lang Cebu City dyan. Kasi, di ba, bumalik yung mga tao ni Magellan na natira, bumalik sa Cebu. Ayan. Ang nangyari dyan, pinaalis din ninyo sa Cebu City yung mga Espanyol. So ito, merong Kwinsentenaryo painting dito sa competition na nagpakita nung pagpapaalis ninyo. Pinatay nyo yung mga leader kasi nang-rape sila ng babae. Oh? So, alam na natin yan. Now, of course, after 40 years, I think Juan de Camus will discover the Santo Niño in one of the houses. No? Tao siya ni Miguel Lopez de Legazpi. And this is very important. You know why? Because when Legazpi and Juan de Camus found the Santo Niño, Miguel Lopez de Legazpi told the King of Spain. He wrote him and said, I beg His Majesty to send some of his aid because it is worth knowing, and so that Your Excellency may understand that God, our Lord, has waited in this place. Imagine. So, ang cue ni Miguel Lopez de Legazpi to conquer the Philippines is that he said, yung iniwan ni Magellan na Santo Niño waited for them, and therefore God waited for them in this place, Sugbo. I hope you see the importance of that in the colonial design. And the Santo Niño will be important. I will talk about it later. So, they established the pueblo, the Santissimo Nombre de Jesus. No? Alam niyo kung bakit Santissimo Nombre de Jesus? Kasi yung Santissimo Nombre de Jesus is the name of Jesus. And he was named when he was circumcised. So that's why the Santo Niño de Cebu has something to do with the circumcision and therefore the Nombre de Jesus. That's why the first name of Sugbo is Santissimo Nombre de Jesus. And supposedly, the Calle Colon, although it was written by Jobers Bersales in this book, no? The Integration, Urbanization of Cebu and Archival Records of the Spanish Colonial Period, na parang merong itong Calle Colon as the oldest street is actually parang a myth, no? Why? Because hindi naman yan tinatawag na oldest street until the late 19th century and early American period. So yan, nilalagyan na oldest street. Pero it makes sense that it can be. Why? Kasi Legazpi talked about putting up the street from the church to the edge of the town. So it's probably Colon. But we do not know. Okay, we do not know. But it's probably Colon since there is a tradition. So, yung paglalagay ng streets, this will happen all around the Philippines through what we call the reduction and the town planning where the church is in the center of the plaza. No? There will also be Sugbo. Nakikita nyo yung Sugbo na kasama talaga siya sa national history. So 'di ba um, sabi ni Father Rene Havellana, the Jesuit, that they transformed the Philippines into a fortress of empire. The whole Philippines is a fortress, no? Because of their outposts. So ano yung outpost sa Sugbo? Eh di syempre yung San Pedro o yung Port San Pedro, makita nyo, no? Nabisita ko yan nung kabuanan ko. Port San Pedro, later on they put the walls, but it was one of the first forts in the Philippines. But there are also other forts in Cebu, no? Pag nakita nyo yung Museo Sugbo, it's made of lime, lime na coral, if I'm not mistaken, coral stone. Basta one of those material. This is the jail naman. This is the carcel, which is now houses what we call the Philippine Kwinsentenaryo Museum. So I was there when it was inaugurated. Nagyayabang lang ako. I was just so happy to be there. And of course, the fortress of Bolhoon, no? Not just the bell tower, but there's also a fortress. Di na ako nakakuha ng picture. So, may mga forts sa mga coastal towns. Why are there forts in the coastal towns? Simple lang. Because eventually what will happen is that the Moros will resist the Spanish power, because the Spaniards wanted to get the Moros, wanted to control Mindanao, to control Southeast Asian trade to the south, no? Indonesia, Malaysia, no? But the problem was the Moros are standing on the way. So what happened was the Moros wanted to hassle the Spaniards by raiding them. Nangangayaw sila. So part of Philippine history yan. They encounter between Kristiyano, Muslim, katutubo. Kristiyano, Muslim, katutubo, encounter. It happened during the early Spanish period. And yung mga ports, yan ang consequences of that. Because you have to watch the raiders when they are coming. So mapunta na sa ili yung mga tao kapag parating na. So they will toll the bell. Andyan na yung mga Moro. No? Kukunin tayo. So papuntahin na sila doon sa ilihan. Ganun po yun. So that's why the Santo Niño became prevalent. Why? Because the Santo Niño in Spain started as a devotion against the Moros in their war against the Moros, or what we call the Reconquista. So ang nangyari diyan, yung mga from Cebu and then to Iloilo, to other Visayan places, the Santo Niño became the rallying cry to fight against the Moros. Okay? So yun po ang kahalagahan. Hindi lang sa devotion, but deep-seated ang Catholicism sa mga Cebuanos, ha? Because eventually, Cebu will produce, at na-record pa yan dito sa aklat na Balaanong Bahandi, no? Balaanong Bahandi, Sacred Treasures of the Archdiocese of Cebu, na sinulat ni na Luella Alex and others, no? Including Jose Elias Bersales as editor. No, yung mga churches, the Basilica Minore del Santo Niño, of course the main cathedral of Sugbo, and look how deep-seated the what we call the devotion of the Cebuanos are to the Catholicism. No? Every time magkaroon ng holy event o ecclesiastical event, in 1965 the Cebuanos celebrated the 400th anniversary of the Christianization of the Philippines. Different yan sa arrival of Christianity. Christianization, we count it from Miguel Lopez de Legazpi, the start of the spread of Christianity. So, nagkaroon ng possession ng Santo Niño de Cebu via boat. And then nagkaroon ng templete, no, doon sa Cebu na sinelebrate yung National Eucharistic Congress and also the 400 years of the Christianization of the Philippines. So mauulit yan sa 2065. 500 years. So dumating yung Papal Nuncio Ildebrando Antoniuti, at ang favorite ko na obispo sa Amerika, si Bishop Fulton J. Sheen, was the guest speaker of that event. So ang pumunta dyan, hindi naman milyon-milyon. Milyong tao. Mauulit yan dun sa pagdating ni John Paul II noong 1981. He visited Cebu, February 19, 1981. Ano, at makikita nyo doon na ayan, no, the Cebu welcome John Paul II, no? Tapos doon sa isang PayPal mass, natuwa siya. Pumunta pa siya sa San Carlos, isa sa San Carlos School, no? Ayan, tapos ang daming tao pumunta sa PayPal mass, kasama niya yung Santo Niño de Cebu doon. And syempre, binati niya yung mga tao. Ang sabi niya yung mga igsuon, no? Wait lang. Oops. Sorry, Day. Hindi ko makita yung sinulat ko. Ayan, sabi niya, mga igsuon nga taga Sugbo ug Bisaya. Sinabi niya talaga sa Cebuano. So, ang ganda nung reception ng crowd. Talagang napamahal si Saint John Paul II sa mga Pilipino. No? At lalo na sa mga Cebuano. That he take an effort to visit Cebu. So, yan yung nangyari dyan. And in the Papal Palace, no, not Papal Palace, the Archbishop's Palace, the Arzobispado de Cebu, he was entertained by Filipino dances. So, yun. So, makita nyo. Tapos, anong mangyari? Alam natin, naulit yan nung Thanksgiving Mass for Pedro Calungsod. 1 million people again in Cebu. 1 million people. Oh? And then another one. Diba? Yung 51st International Eucharistic Congress, 2016, January, 1 million people na naman. So, matindi yung Cebu, no? Filipino phenomenon, parang people power, no? Kaya yung kaso, inuulit-ulit every year. 1 milyon sa sinulog, no? Oh, di ba? Nakikita nyo na Sugbo, gaano kahalaga sa ating kasaysayan, ang Pilipinas. Diba? Lalo na kayong mga hindi taga-Sugbo na nakikinig ngayon. Makita nyo kung gaano kahalaga ang Sugbo. Oh. Malapit na ho, no? Actually, malayo. Sandali lang to. Huwag kayong mag-alala. Oh. Alam nyo, maraming Chinese sa Sugbo na dumating. Kaya meron doon Sugbo Chinese Heritage Museum. Oh. At tumira doon, yumaman yung mga Chinese doon. In fact, yung mga oldest houses in the Philippines nasa Sugbo. No? Nandyan yung Yap San Diego Ancestral House. 1600s pa ho yan itinayo, no? Makikita ninyo ito, no? So hanggang ngayon nakatayo pa, one of the oldest houses in the Philippines. Mga Chinese ang nakatira dyan. Of course, the Casa Gorordo na pinag-aralan po ni Ginoong what do you call this, ni Sir Resil Mojares, no? Yan yung isa sa una niyang libro. And then yung 1730 naman na Jesuit house, one of the oldest houses in the Philippines din, na buhay pa rin hanggang ngayon. Oh? And of course, the old houses in Caracar, Cebu. Now, why are they important in national history? Simple. Because they're the fusion of the old architecture of Bahay Kubo and the Spanish architecture. That's why we call it the stone houses. And that's why we call it the arquitectura mestiza. So pwede nyo ituro yung Cebu houses, isama ninyo doon sa pagtuturo natin ng how the Philippine culture mixed with colonial culture to create a new culture which is unique. No? And this is the arquitectura mestiza. Now, okay, malapit na tayo. We go now to the Philippine Revolution. Philippine Revolution. Ano ang role ng Sugbo sa Philippine Revolution? Now, Iloilo, yan, pro-Spanish yan. No? Not so many are known on the events leading to the Philippine Revolution. Si Sir Resil na ang nagsabi, no, na hindi masyadong nalalaman. Although, i-shout out ko lang po, no? May mga aklat about the Spanish period if you want to know more. No? Of course, the Lapu-Lapu, one of the best books on Lapu-Lapu is actually this edition of the novel of Vicente Gullias. The fantastic part here is the essay of Resil Mojares. This is the one thing that you should read about Lapu-Lapu. No? Maganda ito. Kasi the discourse on Lapu-Lapu, how he was appropriated is here. No? By the Filipino people. Now, of course, the Feast of Santo Niño by Resil Mojares is also very good, what we call this, is a very good reference. And also, si Dionisio C., who recently died, have a book, and this is available at Palmgrass, A History of Cebu and the Anti-Spanish Revolution in Cebu. And also si Bruce Fenner, Cebu under the Spanish flag. No? Hindi lahat ito yung aking Cebu books, but at least I have them here. I thank Orland for signing, letting some authors sign But the best book on the Philippine Revolution in Cebu is actually this book, no? This is Michael Cullinan's Arenas of Conspiracy. No? Kung paano ang mga mayayaman at yung mga mahihirap sa Cebu ay nag-conspire to bring down the Spanish forces here in Cebu or there in Cebu. No? So the case of the April 1898, the 3 de Abril uprising. And of course, Resil Mojares wrote about the succeeding war, which is the war against the Americans by Resil Mojares. Okay, I'll continue my story. No, we're now towards the importance of Cebu in the Philippine Revolution. Now, not so many things are known, pero what we know, according to Sir Resil and to Michael Cullinan, ang ganda nito, Anastasio Oclarino, he was a machinista engineer in Manila. Cebu resident. There's a boat called Bohol, and he was a machinista or an engineer in the boat. So, merong time doon na 1898, the Spaniards massacred some of the men in the port. Some of the men in the port, no? Now, of course, nagkaroon ng reaction yan, including yung mga people from Cebu who are working in what we call the Smith Bell Company, no? Smith Bell, no? So, mga seamen ito. Now, what is the link? Simple. And this is I was so shocked to also hear this. No? Itong si Anastasio Oclarino linked up with a guy named Hermogenes Plata. Now, who is Hermogenes Plata? Hermogenes Plata is the brother of Teodoro Plata, co-founder of the Katipunan. And including sina Bonifacio men. So Bonifacio was already dead, but his men are still organizing. Even before Aguinaldo came back from Hong Kong because of the Pack of Biak na Bato, they continued the revolution without him. So they were organizing these people in the ports, including si Hoxon, Feliciano Hoxon, a Bonifacio man. No? And what happened was, itong sina Oclarino, umuwi ngayon sa Subo, umuwi sila doon, and nakikipag-usap sila doon sa mga people in the docks. No? Including sina Luis Flores from Sama, yung mga yung mga seamen and the dock workers. And then what happened was, nakausap nila yung mga yung mga ilustrado ng Cebu, yung mga mayayaman, including Luis Flores, who was from Samar, resident of Cebu, and Florencio Gonzales. No, Florencio Gonzales. Luis Flores will be the first governor of Cebu. And what happened was, they linked up with the guy from Negros, who also works in Cebu. His name is si Pantaleon Villegas. Pantaleon Villegas, who is known as Leon Kilat. No? So, eventually, this led to the meeting on April 2 in the house of Isidro Givelondo. Isidro Givelondo, who is the grandfather of, great-grandfather, I think, of Agripina Givelondo of Palmgrass. And ditong mga kamag-anak din ni Abril Yucaran Salazar, they eventually were part of the Philippine Revolution in Cebu. They planned on April 2 so that by April 3, 3 de Abril, they are able to attack the Cebu Arsenal, and the revolution in Cebu started. Of course, after a few days, Leon Kilat was killed by an assassination. But eventually, napanalo po yung Cebu Revolution against the Spaniards. And this is the role of Cebu. In a recent book by Virgilio Almario, Leon Kilat of Cebu was listed as one of the leaders of the Philippine Revolution to emphasize the national character of the revolution of the Philippines. So dito nyo makikita, Cebu is part of the reason why we call the revolution of 1896 and 1898 a national revolution. Isang pambansang kilusan. Tulad nga nung sinabi noon ni Ferdinand Llanes. Now, this is one thing that I learned from this book, by Erlinda Quintana Alburo. Erlinda Alburo. It's called Sumad, essays from the centennial of the Revolution of Cebu, in Cebu. I love the essays because it tells me of the unknown heroes of Cebu. But what fascinated me was that after Jose Rizal died, we all know this, Josephine Bracken became a revolutionary. Josephine Bracken became a revolutionary. And he became a heroine of the revolution in Cavite. No? Pumatay pa ng Espanyol yan, bumaril yan. Pero, you know, everyone knows that he married the Cebuano from Cebu. No? Si Vicente Abad. That's why he became Josephine Bracken de Rizal Abad. Now, what happened? Apparently, and this is what I discovered from the Sumad book, Josephine Bracken advertised herself in a newspaper in Cebu that she is teaching English and German and had a, this is so funny, had a shop near Plaza Rizal. So Josephine Bracken lived in Cebu City. She is a hero of our revolution. She is the wife of Jose Rizal. And she lived in Cebu, taught English and German, and he taught daw Sergio Osmeña, who eventually became Speaker of the House in 1916. You know, the teacher of Bonifacio, di ba, Guillermo Osmeña, was also said to be from Cebu. So that is the significance of Cebu in our Philippine history. Now, I will not dwell on too much details because we have no time, but you know the role of Speaker Osmeña. He was a towering figure in the first half of the 20th century Philippine history in politics. Towering figure. He and Manuel Quezon towered over politics in the Philippines. So he was the first Speaker of the House and eventually Vice President, and eventually, by the time of Quezon's death, President of the Republic of the Philippines. And he was the one who started the reconstruction of the Philippines. Remember that Sergio Osmeña is an honorable man. Is an honorable man. The problem with him is yung he was more of a traditional politics in the sense na hindi siya nag-ikot tulad ni Manuel Rojas. So he got defeated from Manuel Rojas. This is the problem. Kaya hindi siya masyadong nakapamuno. He is almost forgotten. But this guy is a true patriot. So Sergio Osmeña was part of the Leyte Landing. Ito po siya, yung nakahat dyan, with the Douglas MacArthur. Now, Cebu also contributed senators, legislators in the national arena, including Vicente Soto, the grandfather of Tito Soto, the Senate President today. And of course, Vicente Rama, who is, I think, the grandfather, is that right? Can you correct me if he is the grandfather of Michael Rama, the Vice Mayor now? And anyway, there were 18 Cebuano senators from 1916, including these 12, who are the most important, one of the very few important ones in our history, including, of course, Sergio Osmeña, Vicente and Filimon Soto, Vicente Rama, Mariano Jesus Cuenco, Manuel Briones, who's probably a relative of mine because I'm Michael Charleston Briones Chua, and of course, the son of Sergio Osmeña, Serging Osmeña, Sani Osmeña, Sergio Osmeña, who are grandsons already, Rene Espina, of course, the guy whose bridge was named after him, Marcelo Fernan, and of course, Ernesto Boy Herrera. So we contributed in the national legislation. Now, of course, the Americans governed the city and the province, and the remnant of that is the Cebu Capitol, which is one of the finest capital designs in the Philippines. So sa Cebu Capitol. And tignan nyo kung gaano kaganda yung planning of the Cebu City during the time of the Americans. So, ganda. Now, of course, the war happened and Cebuanos gave their lives for the Philippines, including those who found the Koga papers. Nag-crash yung commander ng Air Force ng Japan sa Cebu. And they got the suitcase, and even if there was a reign of terror that happened, the Japanese killed civilians so that the paper can resurface. What happened was they did not give up the papers. Tinugis yung mga guerrillas until the mountains, up to the mountains I mean, but they did not give up. They were able to smuggle through drums, no, in the sea, I think to Mindanao, and then eventually the submarine brought it to General Douglas MacArthur, and it gave important information about the Japanese. No? So the Koga papers was important, and Cebu played a big part and sacrificed a lot for those papers. No? And of course, what happened was when the Americans came back in their landing, most of Cebu were already free from the Japanese because the guerrillas were already winning in Cebu. So when the Americans came, they were welcomed already by Cebuanos. Oh? Well, this month is Ramon Magsaysay month, and Cebu tragically was linked to this legacy. This is one of the last photographs of President Ramon Magsaysay on March 17, 1957. March 16, I'm sorry, March 16, 1957, which is actually the anniversary of the arrival of Magellan in the Philippines, in Samar, no? But parang may political bickering sa Cebu, pumunta si Magsaysay para pagbati-batiin. He had many events that day. Until the midnight, he was still inspecting things. And then he went to the airport. This is one of his last pictures, no? In one of the events, nagtatay siya ng shoe. Sergio Osmeña was waiting for him. The old man was waiting for him at the airport. It was already about dawn. And Sergio Osmeña said, "Can you just stay here in my place? Delikado. Can you just stay?" And Magsaysay said he wanted to be with his family for the Sunday breakfast. So he boarded the plane, and of course, that plane crashed. Mount Pinatubo plane crashed in Mount Manunggal in Cebu. So which plunged the nation into deep mourning. That place in Cebu, where the plane of the president was found, Mount Manunggal, is commemorated by a monument to President Magsaysay. And this is the son of Magsaysay, the grandson and the great-grandson. Paco Magsaysay is the son. No? Nandun pa yung plane engine ng ni Magsaysay, nung plane. So the nation was plunged into deep mourning because of Magsaysay's death. Magsaysay remains to be one of the most loved, beloved, and greatest presidents of this country. He died in Cebu. To the altar of freedom during the time of dictatorship, Cebu produced activists, heroes, martyrs, including Fortunato Camus, whose name is now inscribed in the Bantayog ng mga Bayani. And of course, Cebu's place in Philippine history will also be secured because, the snap elections happened. No? The 20-year dictatorship of Marcos against Corazon Aquino, the widow of Ninoy Aquino. No? And it was contested. Marcos won in Congress. In Namprel, Cory won, and Cory called for a boycott. Cory called for a nationwide boycott to boycott all the products of supporting Marcos. Crony products, including Coke, San Miguel, Philippine National Bank, no, Bustans, all of that. And so what happened was, binoycott ng mga tao. It would be 10 days of boycott until February 25, the inauguration of Marcos. And work will stop, civil disobedience that day. That was the plan. That was the plan. On the 6th day of the boycott, people are saying that Cory was absent leader, she was in Cebu, she was not part of EDSA revolution, and she just hid with the nuns. That's not true. Cory was in Cebu to rally the 6th day of the boycott. In Puente Osmeña, thousands of people came to be part of that boycott. Okay? Then, pagbalik nila sa place nila, they heard that Enrile and Ramos defected already from the Marcos regime after serving him for many, many years. And of course, that triggered the EDSA revolution. Cory, to be safe that night, went to the Carmelite convent in Cebu, and then the next day, he went back to Manila. Nakasabay pa niya yung mga tangke. So she did not hide in Cebu. She did not hide. She was there for the night. And Cebu, of course, will be part of people power because after a few days, people power will happen in Manila. And the Manila-centric narrative only tells us of EDSA, but there are EDSAs in Davao, in Baguio, and in Cebu. So ito yung Cebu, Iloilo, Cebu, and all of that. No? So people power was a national upheaval, which included Cebu. No? And of course, the EDSA DOS. Cebu was also part. And the EDSA DOS happened in January January 20, actually, halos kasabay niyan yung sinulog. So, Cebuanos have contributed to the life of the nation, to the story of the nation greatly. Oh? Ayan, EDSA 2. So, we just don't stop with victory and humanity in 1521 when we talk about the history of Cebu. The greatness of Cebuanos and their patriotism and their contribution to national history and the path that we took together. Yung Kaagi, yung dinaanan natin daan, yung Delanan Tamu, in Kapampangan, Delanan Tamu. The road that we took together, my dear brothers and sisters. Yan na yan, contribution ng Cebu. Dumadaloy ang dugo ng bagani sa mga Cebuanons, even today. And so, now, we are defined again in an era that would probably be called the COVID era. The COVID era. And again, together, hopefully, we will be victorious because patuloy tayong makikipagkapwa-tao, magkakaroon ng kapatiran sa isa't isa. Thank you, frontliners of Cebu. Thank you to all our people in government in Cebu. Thank you for all the sacrifices of the government employees and the frontliners in keeping us safe. May we learn the hard lessons of the pandemic, but let us not forget that we can make it through because we have proven that through wars, revolutions, that Cebuanons will prevail and that Cebuanos will continue to be part of the building of our nation. Mabuhay po ang Cebu. Mabuhi ang Cebu. Mabuhi tayong lahat. Daghang salamat po.
Thank you so much, Professor Xiao. Mabuhi ang mga Cebuanon indeed. And thank you so much for giving us such a great enlightenment on the fundamental role of Cebu and the mga Cebuanon in our national history. But nonetheless, of course, it's not just, of course, the Cebuanons, but everyone has had a pivotal role in making national history, you know, and it is just very heartwarming, and it enforces a lot of Cebuano pride to know that this is probably why there is this stereotype that Cebuanons are always intense daw, or parang napaka ang tawag dyan, in Bisaya pa, isog ug dugo, no? We have strong blood, kumbaga. So it really dates back to history, kaya pala ganun tayo, no? Parang walang kinakatakutan. And then for everyone else, we are going to jump right into our questions to Professor Xiao, but more or less we have just one question here, and I think this is really more of you just closing up our session for today. How can we encourage more local historians and history buffs to continue documenting our history that actually contributes to the narrative of our history as a nation? Professor Xiao, you're mute.
Yeah, before I answer that, I would like to say thank you to our Bryner Laurito. Thank you so much to the head of the Xiao. To all of you who watch, to my students, I am sorry, I will not be able to shout you out, no, everyone, but thank you for watching. Kasi, you know, I took a lot of time at wala na tayong oras, gusto na natin kumain, ano. But yeah, thank you for everyone who to my mother, Bill Machua, she's watching, Jess Ulpindo, Alain Derain, Jana Lewelin Chua, thank you for all your comments. Ma'am Feliz Noel Rodriguez, thank you everyone. Whew. I'm sorry, but I would like you to repeat the question.
It's okay. Yun nga, nadali kasi sa mga shout out. But hello to everyone, yung mga students ni Professor Xiao, no? Again, the question is, how can we encourage more local historians and history buffs to continue documenting our history?
Well, there is no true national history if the local histories will not be written. Because a Manila-centric history is not national history. It may be important in a national way because by default, Manila is the center of the Philippines. It's the capital. A lot of things happen there. Pero, is it truly national history? Dili makumpleto ang national history pag wala yung local history. And why should the local historians and history buffs, young history buffs should be excited, no? Ang dami diyan sa Cebu, no? Sumusunod sa mga yapak ni Jobers tsaka ni Sir Mojares, ano? By the way, ito si Jobers, gumulat din sila ng The War in Cebu. Tignan niyo rin 'yan, maganda rin 'yan, no? Sumusunod 'yan, kinala ko sina Joseph Bonpua, 'yan, sina Abril. Al dami niyan. Yan, pati si Orland, sama mo na 'yan. Oh, sana ikaw din, Chingay, nag-host ka ng mga ganito. Mga interest ka rin sa history ng local. Why? You know, Ma'am Feliz Noel Rodriguez knows this, ano? There are just so many digital archives that are opening up from around the world. You know, you do not have to go to the Library of Congress or to the library in Michigan, no? The Michigan University Library. You do not have to go there. There are a lot of online resources now. And of course, you need to study the discipline, whether formally or informally, because that is what I encourage. You know, you study BA history, you study the historiography, you study so that you know how to know what is truth and not ano. Pero sobrang dami ng na pwede ka nang makasulat, hindi mo na kailangan pumunta ng US. Magagawa mo na. The National Archives is also doing their best, no, under Rino Manalo, in digitizing these important documents. No, kaya nga si Jobers sa si Ino, nag-collaborate sila doon sa libro na pinakita ko, no? Itong integrasyon. Madami 'yan. Hanapin niyo yung pumunta kayo sa Cebu Study Center. Pwede kayong pumunta doon. Ang dami pang topics na pwede. And when you do that, and including, kasi we're just talking about Cebu City, Mactan, Opon, how about the other places in Cebu? Ang dami yung pwedeng isulat. So, to close, maybe, my encouragement is this. When you say local historian, I do not look down to local historians. Some people would say, oh, you call local historians because you privilege national historians. No. You know why? You national historians, our work is easy because it has been written. Diba? When I call someone a local historian, walang pagmamaliit doon. The local historian for me is higher than a national historian. Because a local historian still have to search a lot. And when you are able to create the local histories, that is something that will help national history. Kaya I hope that more people will be encouraged to study in USC, to study in other universities in the Philippines, but have topics in local history. Diba? Naalala ko dyan yung isang parang batchmate ko. No, si Roda Wani Ubiña, she studied the Calle Colon. So, if we want our role in history to be documented, and for people to tell stories like how we tell stories of Leon Kilat, even the young kids in Palmgrass are telling Leon Kilat stories with the sigbin, kahit fictional, di ba? Yung kabayo ginawang sigbin nung bata. It's so fun, di ba? If we want to continue to tell stories of Cebuanons, of us in our time, we have to document it. We have to be part of that documentation. Be a historian. But even if you're not a historian, even if you just love history, you're still part of that because there's public history. Public history is what Orland is doing here, and Bryner, and all of you, because you're putting history closer to the people. I'm sorry for the lengthy answers, but I just want to emphasize. Lahat tayo may papel, not just the historians. Yung mga narinig nyo kay Ma'am Feliz, whom I admire so much. Yung mga nababasa nyo kina Sir Resil, kina Sir Jobers, yung mga yan, kina Ma'am Erlinda Alburo, everyone. Lahat po yan ay basahin ninyo, pero there's Facebook, there's social media where you can write about these things. so that people will continue to talk about our heroes and continue to talk about how important our place is. So when you study the history, it gives you importance of place, importance of space, which therefore inspires people to take care of the place, but bigyan ito ng dangal. And also because you are Cebuanos, we are Filipinos, we know who we are, we're inspired to see ourselves as part of that local story, but contributing to the national development. Bawat ginagawa mo na trabaho ngayon ay nag-aambag ka, kahit gaano kaliit, kahit gaano kalaki, sa pagbubuo ng bayan na ito. So, Cebuanons, again, the spirit that we have in the Kwinsentenaryo lecture series and the Xiao is, I have to say this, I'm sorry if this is long, but I really have to say this. I am so appreciative. Kasi ang dami na nagsasabi sa akin noon, patakot ka sa mga Cebuano, pag pumunta ka doon, lalamunin ka nila. Kasi yung mga Cebuano, protective sila sa history nila, protective sila doon sa language nila. Hindi ka nila kakausapin sa Tagalog. Hindi ka nila kakausapin. Wala silang pakialam sa Manila history. And all this is scare, di ba, is unfounded because the Cebuanos were friendly to me. And they invited me here and Ma'am Feliz. Di ba? So Sambuangenya si Ma'am Feliz. Ako, Tarlakenyo. But, you know, we are now in the spirit. Wag na natin yung mga, alam ni Ma'am Feliz ito, yung mga mas matatanda sa atin, mga nag-away ang mga yan eh. We are now in the period where we are fostering tunay na talastasang bayan. Diba? Mahalaga ang local history. Mahalaga ito. Oh? At pinapahalaga nito kahit nang hindi Cebuano. That's why we buy your books. That's why we are interested to learn more. And thank you, Cebuanos, for accepting us. Thank you, Cebuanos, for listening, but also for the learnings that we get from you with all these activities that we do, even during the time of pandemic. So mabuhay ka, Patricia, Chingay, mabuhay kayong lahat sa Xiao. Mabuhay tayong lahat. Mabuhay!
Mabuhi, mabuhi. Thank you so much, Sir Xiao. Okay, thank you so much for your wonderful insight again, no? And I don't think I need to say much anymore after all of that, you know? But yeah, then again, let's all be contributors. And when I say contributors, concrete contributors to the nation building that we are doing, especially in history and culture as well. You know, you don't have to have a degree, you don't have to have extensive studies to actually appreciate culture and history and to be part of your own cultural and history. So we now move on to our giving of our certificates. So let me just go ahead and read a citation for Professor Xiao. Once again, our City Government of Cebu through the Cultural and Historical Affairs Office and the Cultural and Historical Affairs Commission, in celebration of the 2021 Kwinsentenaryo commemorations in the Philippines, would like to present the Certificate of Appreciation to Mr. Michael Charleston Chua for sharing his expertise and being our speaker during the 2021 Kwinsentenaryo Lecture Series with the theme Kadaugan o Katawhan, Mga Sigpat sa Kaaging Cebuanon, with, of course, his own topic, Kaagi, the Vignettes of Cebu in the Road to National History. Given this day, Friday, August 27, 2021 in Cebu City, Philippines, signed by the Cultural and Historical Affairs Commission, Chairman Honorable Michael L. Rama, our Executive Director of the Cultural and Historical Affairs Office, Mr. Bryner L. Diaz, and the City Mayor of Cebu, Honorable Edgardo Labella.
Thank you, Chingay.
Oh.
I accept this certificate. And I also want to have an erratum. Hindi ho tauban.
Yes.
Tabuan. Tabuan was the market.
Tabuan.
And tabuan is the market and what we call the entrepot. So I just have to say that because baka magkamali yung mga teachers. So thank you so much. Thank you. And I'm sorry, tao lang, but thank you, thank you, thank you. Love you all.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor Xiao. And of course, to Dr. Rodriguez as well. Thank you also once again for joining us and for giving us your time and effort and energy to give us those wonderful insights. So, aside from the certificate, we are also going to give you your limited edition Cebu City Quincentennial Certificate merchandise care of the Office of the Mayor. So, we will be sending these to you, of course. And once again, thank you both to our speakers. Let's give them a virtual round of applause, please, everyone. And now, we hope everybody has learned so much from our two esteemed speakers with us today. And we hope that it has enlightened and spurred a new sense of passion for our culture and history. Before we end today's program, may I remind everyone that today has been the 5th episode of our Quincentennial Lecture Series. Our next episode will be on the last Friday of September. And since this will be done every last Friday of the month, and that will be on September 24, 2021. So mark your calendars already. Now, may I also remind everyone here in our Zoom session to please do not forget to answer the evaluation form for you to be able to get your e-certificate. For our registered participants who are following us on Facebook, please see the comment section in the Cultural and Historical Affairs Office Facebook Live for the evaluation form link. To those who are streaming the webinar via the Cebu City Public Information Office or the National Quincentennial Committee Facebook pages, please like the Cebu City Cultural and Historical Affairs Office Facebook page to keep yourself updated with our future activities and for further details of our next webinar. We have finally reached the end of this morning's program. It has truly been a morning of learning and new insights. We hope that everyone who has joined us today have not just learned something new, but have also started a deeper appreciation of our history and culture. Once again, my name is Patricia, and I hope to see you all during our next episode of our Quincentennial Lecture Series. May we all continue to practice our minimum health protocols so that we can overcome the COVID-19 pandemic. Together with our communal cooperation, we will emerge victorious against this challenge. Keep safe and good morning, maayong buntag sa tanan.
Okay, thank you, Chingay. Okay na ang stream.
Okay, thank you.